Hello and thank you for joining us on Journalist Hangout on Sunday. I'm Ayodele Uzubaku. Today on the program, Governor Nasir El-Rufai says financial resources available to bandits in the northwest are enough to destabilize the country. Describe them as more vicious than Boko Haram. As Kebbi and Niger communities groan under yoke of banditry, IMF says food insecurity and poverty may mar Nigeria's economic growth as federal government expresses commitment to curbing inflation and grow the economy. And later on the show, federal lawmakers move to create special seats for women in national and state assemblies. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Sam Ibimere. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now. Thank you for staying with us. So let's begin with an issue that affects everyone. New provisions in the Electoral Act signed by President Muhammadu Buhari on Friday necessitated some changes in plans of the 2023 elections. Chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, announced that the presidential and the National Assembly elections earlier slated for February 18, 2023 have been shifted to February 25th, 2023, while the governorship and state houses of assembly elections will now hold from March 4 to 8th, 2023. Let's hear from INEC chairman.
Presidential and National Assembly elections will now hold on Saturday, 25th February 2023, while the governorship and state houses of assembly elections will hold 2 weeks later on Saturday, 11th March 2023. With this adjustment, the 2023 general election is now 363 days away. Under the law, there are critical time-bound activities from the publication of the notice of election to the conduct of polls, which form the timetable and schedule of activities for the elections. Some of the critical activities and their dates of implementation are as follows. Number 1, publication of notice of election, Monday, 28th January 2022. Conduct of party primaries, including the resolution of disputes arising from them, Monday, 4th April 2022 to Friday, 3rd June 2022. 3, submission of nomination forms to INEC via the INEC portal for Presidential and National Assembly election, 9 a.m. on Friday, 10th June 2022 to 6 p.m. on Friday, 17th June 2022. 4, submission of nomination forms via INEC online portal for governorship and state assembly elections, 9 a.m. on Friday, 1st July 2022 to 6 p.m. on Friday, 15th July 2022. 5, commencement of campaign by political parties for presidential and national assembly elections, Wednesday, 28th September 2022. 6, commencement of campaign by political parties for governorship and state assembly elections, Wednesday, 12th October 2022. 7, last day of campaign by political parties for presidential and national assembly elections, midnight on Thursday, 23rd February 2023.
Today, March 11, 2023. The day is upon us, that is upon us now, and then looking at
for the governorship
election and looking at this revised timetable, when you look at it by the 2nd of July, all primaries from April to July are meant to take place. So expectedly, we're meant to have candidates by July across all political parties.
Yes, and I like a lot of the clauses inserted into the legal framework for our elections now. The INEC chairman didn't just move the date. It was in keeping with the stipulation in the Electoral Act that there has to be a 360-day notice. 360-day notice of election.
Before
you must give 360-day notice.
So that's why they have
for
to
the general election.
Okay.
Yes, as we were dilly-dallying,
about signing
the thing, the time left was shrinking. The time left was shrinking, and INEC was conscious of the law. That look, once this Electoral Act takes effect, you must ensure that whatever you are doing is within what is stipulated in the law. So now they have 363 days notice, given the adjustment that they've done. There's 363 days notice. Nobody can come out now and say, look, I'm taking INEC to court because INEC breached the law.
Electoral Act.
By not giving us up to 360-day notice. So they now have 363 days notice. And that is conforming with the stipulation in the electoral law. That you must be 360 days notice. And it's the same thing even with the matter of primaries. Now we know that parties will have enough time within which they can choose
from 4th of April
yes
to 3rd of June.
Yes, within which they can decide who will be their standard bearers, and then if you have to go to court, you have enough time. It's the same thing
from that 3rd of June down to the time of election.
The following year, you have that's the following year. That's enough time. So the sort of thing that happened to David Lyon would most likely not happen again, because you have enough time to address all litigations and all that. And in any case, all of these cases themselves, there is time ceiling for them. So at least within the time ceiling,
180 days and beautiful.
Yes. So this issue, so I'm happy. Again, under the law, INEC must be provided these funds for the election 1 whole year before the election takes place. That's part of what is in the.
How we achieve that?
Yeah, in that. No, of course. Why? If they do not provide the funds, INEC will not be able to prepare sufficiently. So they are trying to address this issue of today at the last minute we've discovered that we are not ready, then we are moving the election. No, you have enough time to prepare for the election. That the funding must be released on time. The law says you must release 1 whole year. So we are getting there gradually in terms of some of the legislations that have come with this electoral, with the new electoral law. So hopefully the issue will now be, how do we get politicians to behave themselves?
Sir, now we can start seeing politicians coming out. I don't know, for those people still serving as still serving ministers, serving commissioners, that they are aspiring to be president and governors, what will be their fate now? Since we have a timetable, will you mean they have to resign before that April to start campaign to get involved in the...
That's an interesting question. The law is the law. Unless there's an amendment, we all have to abide by the law. And the law says if you are a political appointee, you would have to resign if you are interested in going for an elective position. And that is why the president, in signing the bill into law, asked for some amendments, especially as it relates to clause 84, which talks about the need for political appointees to resign their positions ahead of the election. So we really don't have a choice until the law is amended. That is what it is. I don't see how politicians who are keen running for political positions are going to walk around it. So I think the law provides a clear roadmap, for every stakeholder, in the Nigerian project, to play his part. Sadly, that is what what it is at the moment. I would want to believe that the lawmakers, advise themselves properly right all the way to putting the law together.
This sudden, as in everything is going to be happening fast now.
Yeah, of course. The president made a promise and said, look, if these basic things are done in terms of what I want taken out, from the proposed law, that he was going to act. So, and the law gave him 30 days within which to act, and he did act within 30 days. So I don't think that what happened should have come to any of us, as a surprise. But the interesting thing, even after all the long wait, is that the law is there with us. We have to abide by it. We don't know how long it's going to take the lawmakers to effect any amendment. That is, if they are convinced that an amendment should be effected on the Electoral Act of 2022. I don't see anything happening very quickly, because of course there are going to be lobbies going on all over the place. So even though Mr. President has asked for an amendment, it might not come that easy, especially if some radical members within the House feel that they are sufficiently convinced about what they did in terms of putting the law together.
Julie, for parties like the All Progressive Congress, this might be very difficult. This timetable might be very, very difficult to maneuver, because so what this is saying now is that they must stick to their March 26th date of convention without shifting, because after that convention, they're expected to come back for their presidential primary. So that is between now and June.
They don't have a choice. Laws are meant to be obeyed. I know that they are trying their best to arrive at consensus candidates which will make things easy. In their own view, will make things easy at the convention, because if we throw everything open and people have to contest, you could have a rancorous convention. They are trying their best to avoid that, and that's why they are going to go for consensus, having seen how the consensus arrangement worked with the PDP. PDP had seamless convention, and everybody went home, but PDP had enough time, set up a zoning committee led by the governor of Enugu State. They went round, set up a committee led by Governor of Kaduna, who went around, hammering out deals with people who had issues to settle with the party. And at the end of the day, they had a convention that was largely very peaceful, and just one or two.
They had elective position, maybe deputy national chairman.
Yes, those ones. And it was also because it was difficult to achieve unanimity at that level. Now say, okay, let these ones contest. So that's what the APC leaders would want to do, because they really don't have a choice. They've run out of time, and time is of essence. There is a law in place. The president will always have his way with this generation of lawmakers. So I'm sure that having signed, there are so many positive things, so many revolutionary ideas that are in place in that electoral law.
Yes.
To make them imagine that, well, even if the president asks for this, let us just go ahead. A lot of people are excited already, because they know that at least we have electronic transmission of results. That is there. We now know that the electronic accreditation of voters is also backed by law. So there are positives here and there, and because there are those positives, I want to believe that people like, that the National Assembly members would not want to delay. They will simply make those adjustments that concern largely the president's appointees, the Attorney General and the rest of them. He did tell us that he would tell the president not to sign, and that's what we have seen. Now the president signed with conditions that they will remove that.
And the National Assembly members don't have any choice.
I'm sure that they will go ahead and do that. Yes, at least we have other positive things that we can be happy about.
Okay. When some daredevil robbers stormed Uromi in Edo State to rob banks, the youths and vigilance groups in the town had other ideas. The State Police Command has announced that 34.5 million naira was recovered from the fleeing armed robbers. The money was recovered from the vehicles abandoned by the armed robbers at a bush in neighboring Ubiaja, southeast local government area of the state, after hot chase by the youths. Did you see the picture of the video?
No, I saw the video of the attack on those 4 banks. In fact, it's like armed robbers descending on the scene in paratroopers. I mean, like paratroopers, and then even coming with a convoy of cars. Such daredevilry, such I've never seen anything like that.
In the middle of daylight.
In broad daylight. Of course, you know that in semi-urban centers and rural areas, robbers like to rob banks. That's why in our country, in many semi-urban and rural areas, banks have chosen not to operate. Thank God we have the POS business. That's how people are getting by. We used to have a bank in my village, but we don't have any more.
Because
you have to travel just to be able to
access cash,
access banking services. You saw what happened in Isanlu back then when they killed no less than 9 policemen. It was worse than even the of a bank robbery in terms of the number of policemen that were killed. So rural areas where you have banks, they will attack. In this case, I'm happy with what the youth did. The youth got themselves together and said, look, okay, your getaway will not be easy. We are going to block the route. And it's easy to just park cars across the road. Where are they escaping to?
They want to go and mount a road.
They they went and waited for them at where they thought would be their main exit route, escape route, their getaway route, and then they blocked the road. So, seeing that they could not escape, they fled on motorbikes and left all the money that they are stolen.
The of Nigerians, sometimes when you look at some determined youth, look at these people.
There was a robbery operation on the island many years ago when I was editor of PM News. Boys confronted the robbers. In fact, some of them were saying, with the sound of that gun, it doesn't have more than 5 bullets left. You know, a lot of these boys will feel hungry that you came to our community to kill people. Oh, these guys killed about 9 persons also. You came to our community and they will now say, okay, we are going to confront you. Do you know that as some of those boys are predicted, of course, some of them were bad boys too, said, this guy is running out of bullets. Let's keep attacking them. And by the time those guys ran out of bullets, they descended on them. They cut their heads. On Lagos Island here, they cut their heads. That robbery, they did not escape with it. In urban centers, that's why it's difficult to commit bank robbery and think you can escape. It's difficult because they block the road. Where are you going? Even in Abuja, some people tried to rob a bank the other day. They couldn't escape. Right. In Lagos, when was the last time that
major
bank robbery? Yes, bank robbery that they escaped with bank robbery. It's difficult. Now, we've got to praise these guys for the role they played. The vigilance people and the police, they were able to work with the police to ensure that those boys didn't escape.
Sam, I don't know if you see the way they carried those rifles in broad daylight, and they assembled cars. They had like 4 vehicles and they were just carrying the bags of money,
sacks of money,
putting it in the
the videos and the pictures all went viral. I doubt if there is any Nigerian who didn't stumble on those images. Very heart-rending, images of what transpired in that part of Edo State. The killings were just, so terrible. Seeing the images of very helpless Nigerians, being gunned down in cold blood. It speaks a lot to the level of insecurity. It also speaks to the need for the banks to be a lot more creative in the way they manage security. They don't really have an option. It's either that is done or they all go under in those areas. And we are speaking about financial inclusion. Somehow we've got to take this aspect of our business closer to the people. So really very sad development, but good to know that these terrible guys never succeeded at the end of the day. Loss of lives, but we just have to find a way of containing matters like this. I read about the police talking about recoveries and all that, but credit must go to credit must go to the youths of Ubiaja community who are bold enough to cordon off the roads, and I think for me that is what really matters. So I think that in matters that have to do with security, the signals that we get is that all of us there is need for everyone to be involved in managing security around us. If we had left it, or if the youths of Iberia had left it to the police, those guys would simply have walked away, emboldened.
And probably some videos showing security men escaping from the scene.
And probably, preparing to come back at some other time. But it's clear, and the signal sent to these daredevil robbers is that
don't come back here.
Don't come back here, because the youth are not going to, take it very lightly with them. Sad, we lost lives in this incident here.
Sometimes these people, they come with explosives.
No, they need
bring down the doors.
They come with dynamites to destroy the doors of the bank, so that they can get in. And then once they get in, they usually have information about even the way the inner recesses of the banks are planned.
That's why sometimes
they go straight to the office of the manager. They are not going to ask you questions. They are going there straight. There was a time that we did a story back then when I was still at the news, and one boy was a youth corps member, and he worked with armed robbers. He was serving in the bank. So he gave them a plan of the bank. So the robbers didn't just storm the bank. They had information. They knew where to go. They knew where the bank manager's office was. Then they knew where they kept their money in the strong room and all that. So they just it made it easier for them because they had information. But as we said before, this show of courage by these young men of Uromi needs to be encouraged. The vigilance people, they've done a fantastic job. Now, I'm sure that next time they will think twice about going to a place like this, because they will tell themselves that, look, you don't know what to expect when you go to a place like this. And I hope that the police will eventually arrest these people as the governor of those states has demanded.
All right. We go to health matters now. The federal government has urged states and local governments to embrace the campaign against open defecation. At the inauguration of a project in Abuja tagged Catch Them Young on open defecation, the Minister of Water Resources and Rural Development, Suleiman Adamu, said involvement of states and local government areas will make everyone join the fight against open defecation. Let's share the story of one of the awareness in Ondo State with you.
Under the Clean Nigeria campaign, 76 out of 774 local government areas in Nigeria became free of open defecation a figure that shows that the country still needs to engage in an aggressive campaign to end the menace. The launch of a statewide mass sensitization program began with this walk around major streets of Akure, Ondo State capital. They moved around the city, preaching the message against open defecation. The walk terminated at the sports complex, Akure, where dignitaries from all walks of life converged for the second part of the event. The Minister of Water Resources, Suleiman Adamu, said there is a need for collective effort to end open defecation in the country.
It's important to note that the action to end open defecation in Ondo State, by extension in Nigeria, will require the contribution and commitment of everyone. Government at all levels, civil society, the private sector, development partners, traditional and religious institutions, and the entire populace.
The state governor, Rotimi Akeredolu, was represented by his deputy, Lucky Aiyedatiwa, said government at all levels must work in synergy to address the challenge.
No effort will be spared to achieve this open defecation-free objective. If we sustain the present momentum, I can assure you that Ondo State is on the right course of becoming an open defecation-free state.
For the State Commissioner for Water Resources and some guests present at the event, the campaign must be taken to the grassroots.
Best approach towards achieving open defecation-free status is through community-led total sanitation, CLTS. This is the total involvement and participation of community members towards this behavioral change.
To drive effective campaigns for anything is to go all the way to the grassroots, the community levels, ensure that all our community traditional rulers are all fully aware.
It is believed that Nigeria can achieve an open free defecation before 2025 if government at all levels work together with the people. Ayodeji Moradeyo, TVC News, Akure.
Sam, 2021, and we still find ourselves.
2022.
I'll be 2022, and we're still grappling with this kind of problem.
Yeah, it speaks to the level of hygiene in our society, and I think that is that explains why, sometime in 2018 or thereabout, the government initiated the national campaign tagged "Wash, Water, Sanitation, and Hygiene," to help, improve the level, of hygiene in the country. It will interest you to note that by 2019, 18 out of Nigeria's 774 local governments, were involved in that incident. Had very poor records. We've had some improvements, between then and 2021. The last time I checked, it had moved up from that 18 local governments out of 774 to 71. I guess, what explains that is the national campaign which was initiated, by the Muhammadu Buhari administration. Yeah, so it's not a very good record. It doesn't speak well in terms of our Human Development Index. It's a challenge, not just for government, but for everyone who has a relation and a family, to understand that we need to keep ourselves clean. That campaign is one that the government must sustain, because there's a whole lot that could go wrong if we don't manage our hygiene properly. One want to encourage the government to sustain that national campaign, and since the figures are also going up, 71 at the moment, let's see how we can close the gap between 71 at the moment and 774 local governments.
Julie, even in a mega city like Lagos, you discover that the level of hygiene and everything, and it stems from the fact that you can move kilometers without spotting public toilets and a proper place to defecate. And we don't, maybe from the local government down to the state government, I don't think there's so much this thing for provision of this.
Yes, even individuals ought to invest even in mobile toilets. You know, may God rest, bless the soul of Otumba Gaddafi, who came up with this revolutionary idea at that time. In October 2019, we overtook India as the country with the worst case of open defecation. So it is estimated that 50 million Nigerians are practicing open defecation. And it is said that it's only in 14 local governments in our country where there is you see no case of open defecation. I know of communities where people, they will climb the hill and go and defecate. Is that bad? If Nigeria, a country of 923,769 square kilometers, is ahead of India, that is 3.287 million square kilometers. India, a country of 1.4 million people, 4 billion people, is ahead of Nigeria. We have overtaken India, a country of 1.4 billion people. We estimate that we are 200 million people. How could we have overtaken India in open defecation? It just shows that there is a lot that we need to do that we are not doing. In urban centers like Lagos, you see people defecating openly. So it's a big problem, and that's why I think those who came up with those statistics, they must have seen that even in most of our urban centers, this is something that is happening. You say Lagos, Eko for sure, and the rest, and you go to Marina, you go to Island, you see people even by the roadside on expressways in the city. You know,
I don't think those ones are normal human beings.
No, but some of them are pressed. Some of them are pressed. You see some women, they are traveling by road. Suddenly, they will start shouting, "Mofe toilet." I wonder who told them that is good English. Mofe toilet. Mofe toilet. The next thing, the driver will stop, and they've gone to defecate. Usually, when they are harassed like that, it is liquid excrement that they are yielding. So we've got to do a lot more.
Yeah.
If it was estimated that every year in our country, up to 6 million kids die from diarrhea and the rest, it's not difficult to find out why. Because when people defecate in the open, flies will touch their excrement, and it ends up in water that people drink and all that.
Yeah,
because some of our people defecate in water, in rivers,
lagoon.
in rivers that some people drink. We defecate in rivers. We defecate everywhere. So it's so sad. Government needs to do a lot more. These campaigns have to be sustained and follow up those campaigns by building toilets. Public toilets that are also accessible. Look at motor parks, a lot of those motor parks. That's why I think states like Lagos need to even take over motor parks. We have indulged this NURTW people enough. Take over motor parks, make them cleaner.
Facilities.
Put standard toilets in them.
Yes, and maintain it.
Maintain them. Then make them also accessible. Don't charge people too much money, because if they can't afford it, they will simply, in your presence,
yes,
they will go
at
and
the back of your facility.
Yes, they will go and defecate in the open. So these are things that we need to do. These are things that we need to do so that it's about 100,000 Nigerian kids who die each year from malnutrition, from diarrhea. So we just need to do a lot more so that we can overtake. I mean, we can push push India back to the number one position. All right,
we'll take this break. When we come back, we'll talk more. It's still Journalist Hangout on Sunday. We'll be right back. Please don't go away. Thank you for staying with us. This is Journalist Hangout on Sunday. The banditry ravaging northwest Nigeria may be more pronounced when we realize, according to the Governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, the financial resources available to bandits in the northwest are enough to destabilize the country. Governor El-Rufai also said the bandits are more vicious than Boko Haram terrorists. Meanwhile, residents of communities in Niger and Kebbi states continue to groan under the yoke of banditry. Judy, these bandits, I don't think Governor El-Rufai is overestimating, because the quantum of money they collect as ransom, you can hardly hear bandits demanding for 1 million naira ransom, 2 million naira ransom. Do you understand?
Those ones are not, they are not bandits. So there are people, maybe bandits who have just started the trade, who ask for 1 million. They are talking about 20 million, 100 million. Yes. So he is aware the resources at the disposal of those guys. If a bandit could boast that he spent so much money to bring in gun trucks from Nigeria Republic.
How much will you purchase a gun truck?
So if that's to tell you
this is not
how
million,
much
is
are there. Look at some of the weapons that they parade. GPMGs, AK-49 and the rest.
Aircraft.
Yes. If they can shoot down an Alpha jet.
Flying low.
Yes. If you fly low in the area, you are risking your life. Because even with an AK-47, you can bring down an aircraft that is flying low. All they need to do is find the right place to fire at, maybe where there is less thick armor, you know. Even helicopters, it's not every part of the body that has thick armor. So it's the kind of problem that we face. We need to realize it. Some of the things that we have said repeatedly here, the governor said it, said that you can only defeat these guys by conducting simultaneous operation across all the areas where we know they are, all those states. He also talked about piecemeal approach by the military. This is what we've been saying. You go after them in Zamfara today, you leave Kaduna alone. Of course, they are going to move into areas where they are sure that the military operation is not taking place. The only thing that can wipe them out is simultaneous operation. And the governor also talked about the fact that our soldiers are scared of being taken beyond, to ICC. That they probably would have felt
generals.
Yes, they don't. So they are scared of carrying it. You know, we can sit here and say, oh, they are terrorists. That's not how the international community views them. The governor said something about the fact that they don't even have leadership structure, and a lot of their leaders are not known. When it comes to who is a terrorist, there is a way that they are globally defined. We can't on our own just say, oh, these guys are terrorists. There is a global,
because that is our
because we feel yes, you know, it's not now you've declared them terrorists because you felt that, look, once you did that, the army will simply go and wipe them out. But some of the conditions that need to be present before you can deem a group a terrorist group, they are not present. Now the people should wipe them out. They are reluctant to carry that out because they feel that if they did that,
amount to genocide.
Yes, that they could be in trouble. That's what the governor is saying. That the military, that they are experiencing a pushback from the military because they are conscious of the fact that if they decided to wipe these guys out the way they should, they could be in trouble.
Some even stay within villages.
No, people live with them.
Do you understand? So that by the time you attack them, there's no how you know incur collateral damage.
Serious collateral damage. They have merged with people, and people can go to Kebbi or even Sokoto State and say, okay, this is our district head. We are appointing district head for you. Is the district head not going to be living with the people? So any military operation, you should expect that you are going to kill far too many people. Some of these things are not as easy as it seems to our people. Now we have that law. When the government said it was declaring them terrorist group, it mentioned 2 groups. We know that in the northeast, bandits have hundreds of leaders. How do you deal with that? For a terrorist group, it must have a name and then the leadership. So Boko Haram, they have 2 factions, Abanawi and the Shekau faction. Even when Shekau and Abanawi are dead, the structure remains, the 2 groups remain. But you can't say the same of these guys. So you can actually have what you want and discover that you are not achieving your aim. Now you are calling them terrorists now because you think it will simply ensure that the military go and finish the job. The governor was one of those who asked that they should be called terrorists. Now listen to what he's saying, that they are experiencing a pushback from the military. They don't want to carry that out. So it's an unfortunate situation, but these guys now they are smiling to the bank. What do we do?
There was a time I think Jide went to, was it Zamfara, and it took him like hours to access the villagers to even talk to them. So anytime that they have any problem, military cannot or police cannot even access that place on time. So most of these areas, there's this kind of disconnect. Governance, we don't have the presence of governance there. A lot of community in Nigeria. That's once we don't have government presence, no pipe-borne water, no motorable road, no hospital, nothing. So terrorists, these bandits will just make such areas their enclave, and the people there, they can't do anything. They are helpless.
Oh yeah, we've already tagged these territories, ungoverned territories, and in the north, the landmass is something else. The guys virtually have, a blank check to roam the entire place, the northwest, most part of the northwest, and of course, increasingly they are heading, towards the central part of the north central part of the country. So many ungoverned spaces. We talked about resources, their access to resources and all that stuff. We should also remember that in these ungoverned territories where you have our brothers and our sisters living, the guys have set up their own form of governance, and they are taxing the people. So they have a near steady source of revenue. And when you have access to funds, you can literally do anything you like with it. And that is why bandits will walk across our borders, procure arms, and come back and face the Nigerian state. So it's like a catch-22 situation where you are caught between the devil and the WC. But the government cannot, just raise up its hands in surrender. The military must find a clear strategy to deal with this issue. We cannot say because these people don't respect any rules of engagement and all that, and then concerns about how the world is going to treat, our military response to these bandits, then we just surrender, raise our hands in surrender. I think that the military must realize that action, has to be taken. The man who sits as the president of the country is commander-in-chief, all right? He knows how best to deal with this matter. I think Nigeria has to find the will to deal with these things, rather than say, okay, fine, if we do this, then we stand the risk of being condemned as a pariah state. I don't think, for me, that is sufficient reason, not to want to act. These guys have access to resources. They operate like terrorists. I mean, everybody is clear on that, and that is why some of us are really very worried about the ambivalence that the government seems to be exhibiting. You tell us that you know who these people are. You have 96 of them. You are putting up for something for trial and all that, and we don't see anything happening. So if you know them, why don't you name some of them who are financing these people, whether they are bandits or terrorists? What is clear is that there's so much money, and then you ask yourself, so much money, at play. How is the banking system, not able to capture these things? So these gaps are things that we must deal with, whether we like it or not. The government even mentioned some bureau de change, involved in some of these things. So when they pick up this money, how do they launder them? Do they keep the money in the bushes? So several questions to ask Ayo. The Nigerian state must find a way to respond to it.
The quantum of money is baffling because they don't even do bank transaction in the banks. They don't do anything. Collect cash. And some of them, they go for dollars.
They collect cash and
ransom.
Yes, they collect cash. Even when they collect cash from you in naira terms, they go to the bureau de change and have it changed to dollars. I want to believe that some of their patrons, the big people, are even outside of our country, because it's so strange the way we are unable to deal decisively with this problem. The governor also talked about lack of intelligence and the fact that we do not have enough soldiers, we do not have enough equipment.
But don't you think it's like exaggerating when Governor El-Rufai is saying that these guys are deadlier than Boko Haram?
You know why I will agree with him? At this time, Boko Haram is not as deadly as it used to be. How many times do you hear reports of Boko Haram striking? I'm telling you, as someone who went to the Northeast in December, that Boko Haram is in a weakened state now. They've been denied the ability to strike at the military the way they used to do. So as we are defeating Boko Haram in the Northeast, and we are getting reports of peace gradually returning, some of them surrendering, we have a bigger problem in the Northwest. I think that's the point that he's trying to make.
Yes.
And you know, there's a bigger problem over there. And don't also forget that some of the Boko Haram guys have now gone to the Northwest.
Yes.
They are working together.
Like those guys in Niger State.
Yes, they even announced that those ones didn't hide. When those Kagara students were kidnapped, they said that it was Shekau that sent them. If people who have access to that video, they said that their loyalty is to Shekau. So people should not deceive themselves that elements of Boko Haram are operating now as bandits in the Northwest. I guess that's part of what the governor is saying. There is some level of cooperation between both groups. Remember, it was Shekau that sponsored the kidnapping of the Kankara students. He was the one who released the video of those children. So now Boko Haram is now spreading its tentacles to the Northwest, and of course they are more brutal, they have greater resources, they have equipment with which to engage the army. Were the bandits shooting down aircraft before? They weren't. Were the bandits snatching armored vehicle of the army before? They weren't. But we've seen them do that in the last few months, snatching military armored vehicle. So Boko Haram is already in these areas. We have to admit the truth. So that's where I guess that's the point that he's making. And he also said something that the Fulanis, that the bandits, those of them who are Fulanis, will find it difficult to give it up because the kind of money that they were making from selling cattle, that they make a lot more from kidnapping. That's what he's saying. You know, he said it before. He said it before. He has repeated it again. He's a man who is known for speaking the truth. He has repeated it again that, look, forget it. The Fulani man who used to sell cattle now is gone into kidnapping. The money that is making in kidnapping is too humongous for you to think that he will go back to cattle breeding. So that's the dilemma that we face.
Okay,
yes, that's the armored vehicle that they collected. When bandits are collecting armored vehicles.
What effrontery?
They have weapons. They have weapons. We are at war. We have to tell ourselves that we are at war. That's why the governor is calling it insurgency. It's a big problem that we face. In Niger, they overrun military barracks, not once, not twice. So, how else can you describe that? It's war. That war brought to us. And whichever way we can find to win the war, we have to find a way.
Absolutely.
The level of unemployment in the country, this is a reflection. Look at these guys now. They are young men. doubt if you have people in their 40s or 50s, if you have anybody around here.
That's all.
As in, look at them.
Yeah, unemployment level at 33%. Okay, Ayo, that's huge. That's huge. That's as if it hasn't gotten worse. We're told at some point that the unemployment level here was about 33%.
No, it's close to 40 now.
Okay,
so this 33%
is conservative.
Around 5-6 years ago.
It's conservative.
Just like when people say, 13.5 million out of school children. At a time when they are even going to schools to kidnap people. That was before they even started it.
20 million.
Is a ready recruitment ground, you know. And then you also want to recall that some of these terrible guys are known to offer, you know, sums of money that these unemployed people cannot, you know, say no to.
They hire them as informants.
Yes,
to tell you about truth movement.
So it's a big industry. Let's not pretend. I think that's the point that Governor El-Rufai, you know, was making. So, but how can the government, you know, intervene in this devilish business?
Do you know what they are also doing now?
With it.
Do you know what they are also doing now? Even they will call people and say, look, if you don't release money, we are coming to your house to kidnap you and your children. So even in urban centers now, they go to kidnap people after warning you to bring money if you don't bring money. So one guy got angry and he was saying, look, it won't be better for you if you don't come and kill all of us. Look at the kind of money that you're asking from me. I don't have it. Kill me if you want. They said, we will slaughter you like goat. He said, come and do it. People are frustrated.
No, but it tells you how mean these guys are. I mean, you kidnap a set of Nigerians, keep them for months, until they are able to pay the levy you have placed on them.
Some, they will ask them to even pay that ransom.
Do you understand?
They will agree on ransom.
Some sell houses.
They will abduct the person that came to pay.
Yes, and the person that came to give them the ransom.
You keep people for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, until they are able to pay what you have asked for.
That's to show you how mean they are.
Another problem that is facing us is the way this thing will be affecting the food baskets. Like a state now, like every state, when we know that, look, that's almost our headquarters for rice farmers and everything. So if you start having insecurity in this kind of states,
one of the reasons why we have why food is expensive in our country is this problem. And until we defeat these bandits, it will not. It will get worse. Because how do you get people to go to the farms?
You can't.
Okay. For more updates on the security situation in Kebbi, just as Jide mentioned, let's join the community leader, who is Dan Masani of Jauri, Alhaji Abdullahi Muhammad Lamba. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Alhaji, can you tell us the situation in Kebbi State right now in terms of security and what you are experiencing with these bandits?
It's a pity that because of the weakness of the kind of administrative leadership we have in Kebbi, Yauri will have been seriously crippled. Because like the students that were already are still under captives by the Boko Haram and these bandits. They are brilliant boys, and we since 1987 we have Yauri Emirate Development Association, which on our own, any boy or girl that has excelled in secondary school, we sponsor them to tertiary education, be it in Nigeria or beyond. But the unfortunate part of that, the kind of leadership we have in Kebbi is our big problem. We have nothing. We have a lot of talking, but when it comes to performance, virtually nothing is done. And even nobody bothered even to know the whereabouts of the remaining of these boys. Some of them have been paralyzed, and some of them have been subjected to so many life hardships. And the parents, some of the parents have died under serious frustrations.
We heard that some of the bandits even impregnated those FGC students?
Honestly speaking, these bandits are not working for any religious practice. Rather, they are doing it for their personal interest. They raise people, not only boys and girls, they raise virtually everybody. So the situation where this boy gets is unfortunate. And nobody would like to see his son or his daughter or even grandson or granddaughter in that kind of circumstance. But we have no helping hand. There's a lot of talking, but we have not seen anything serious so that concern is shown over this issue.
Why wasn't the school closed before the attack? Because I understand there was a security report that bandits could move in from Niger State to Yauri to kidnap those children. Why did we not close the school before these people struck and took away so many of those children?
For your information, that school has been established as far back in 1974 during the time of General Yakub Gawon when he introduced emergency teachers training college. It was that school that was combated. And this issue of closing or not closing is not under the control of the poor parents. It's the responsibility of the government because of the nonchalant attitude. They have not taken even a lot of reports was submitted to.
So he has painted the kind of gory picture of the situation they're facing.
Yes.
And I don't know.
You heard him saying that some of the teachers, some of the parents are dead as a result of what
frustration
they are going through. Their children are still in bandits' hands.
For how many months?
Yes. They release some with pregnancy. Some are still there. That's enough to kill a parent. That's what. There are some parents who have more than 2 kids with them. So how do those parents cope? And to realize that you are even powerless, government is unable to do anything about it. Government left you to go find a way to get the children.
Some parents, out of desperation, they will go into the forest with money. They will go to the forest.
Yeah, because
you have to find the money.
You have to find the money because government said, "Oh, we are not negotiating with bandits." I've always said, "Look, I do not encourage negotiation with bandits, but you must do your best to bring those children out of the captivity. If you can't bring them out, then you have failed. It's as simple as that. No one is saying you must negotiate because we know that the more we negotiate, the more we are helping them to make money and all that. But what is the alternative? Get these children. People can't be with bandits. Women can't be young women. Girls can't be with bandits for 6 months, and you are surprised that they are impregnating them.
And sometimes we have Stockholm syndrome situation there.
Yeah.
Those girls, they won't want to come back.
Yes, some of them, they are already ruined. They are even some have even married. They've married some of these girls. They have married some of these girls. So what are we talking about? Outlaws, they don't deserve to live. It's as simple as that. The kind of things that they are doing to beyond Yauri, go to other parts of Kebbi State, the Zulu area. They are not allowing people to live in peace. Go to Niger State. They are not allowing people to live in peace. The governor has gone grey. Out of complaining and complaining and complaining, he has gone to Abuja repeatedly. No solution. No solution. So the question is, how much longer can we take the nonsense that these bandits are giving us? The state has the responsibility to defeat these guys.
And their growth is alarming.
Yes. Now, when you can see that they are making it, they are marrying. Somebody showed me one of Truji's wives, young, very beautiful girl. When people can see that musicians are singing their praises, they are making it, they are making money. Why won't people join them? Young people will go and join them. Young people will offer to join themselves. Do you know how many people buy bread and resell to bandits because the bandit is ready to buy it at 4 times the price?
So you have
people buy petrol. They know that petrol is the live wire of the bandit, because that's what they put in their motorcycles. People who risk their lives take petrol to these guys. They know that the bandit offers big money to informants. People will work as informants for them. So when vehicles are passing, they know there's a big man's vehicle. They are the ones who will call the bandit. We said the other day that we are banning the use of telco services in some of those areas. It didn't achieve the aim. It didn't achieve the aim because banditry didn't come down during the period. That is a fact. And we cannot do it permanently. We've now said, okay, people can go back to using their phones.
This is a situation that government will need to look for a long-lasting solution, and because they've allowed it to fester, so their growth now, the development now, they're now spreading.
Yeah, so the very first thing is for government. They're coming down south. The very first thing. So nobody will sit in prison. The very first thing is for the government to admit that we have an emergency on our hands. 2, in admitting that we have an emergency, we should rightly brand it anarchy, because that is what it is. Now we can play the ostrich and make the world believe that it is not so bad, but it's terribly bad what we have. Often I've come here to talk about how quickly some states in the country are descending into what some of us call a failed state. Nigeria may not be a failed state, but what is playing out in some states in the northwest especially.
Let me quickly take this caller. Okay. Mohammed is calling from Mokwa in Niger State. Thank you for joining us, Mohammed.
Okay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mohammed.
Okay, Mr. Gide, it's a pleasure being online with you guys this afternoon. I'm really happy. This is my first time.
You're welcome, Mohammed.
Thanks for...
Oh, okay, my contribution is this. I'm calling from Mokwa in Niger State.
How is that area? Do the bandits harass people?
Yes, presently as you are in the studio now, bandits are riding around Lavo local government in Niger State.
Wow. They're operating?
Yes, right now, as I'm speaking with you, they are operating in Niger State, in Lavo local government, around Dampa area. There's a village called Dampa, and some other villages around there. People, families are running away, leaving the old people and women and children.
How is the Kontagora area now? Because we hear that they're operating in that area frequently.
I think it is from Kontagora area that those bandits are moving downward towards the military axis.
So the problem you have is not even Shiroro alone. There are other local governments in Niger where these boys are running rampant.
Yes, it's not only Shiroro. As I'm speaking with you right now, Lavu local government has been invaded by these bandits. In fact, as of yesterday, they killed about 3 vigilantes, members of the vigilante group from a village called Dampa area in Lavu in Niger State.
Thank you. Jide, before we start praying for Ukraine, we need to pray for Nigeria.
Yes.
Because there are areas, there are areas in Nigeria, and even Nigerians, they don't know what is happening.
They don't even know the extent of this problem.
Of this.
A lot of our people,
to Katsina, to Kaduna,
a lot of our people are hypocrites. Hypocrites. Big time hypocrites. We have problems in our country, we are reluctant to admit it. But when something little happens in France, you go and take their flag, you say you are solidarizing with them and all that. In your country, there's a bigger problem.
Honestly.
For reasons best known to you, you are reluctant to admit it. You are turning your blind eye to it. You make it look like, no, there is not a problem. It's the media that is making it up. The people who are calling from Niger and other places now, are they media people? Is it Babajide that is saying it? Is it Babajide that is saying it? So, before we continue to pray to God that the crisis in Ukraine that should end, the wars in Ukraine should end. Pray for your own country. Pray for your country that this problem, what we have in Ukraine, if they call the two parties together, in one day they can solve this problem.
Yes.
And that process has even begun.
Yes.
The Ukrainian president will say, no, I don't want to meet with them in Belarus because he thinks that Belarus is pro-Russia.
Down ground.
So this one, they can solve their own problem even with dialogue. But the problem of banditry, can we solve it with dialogue? So there is a bigger problem that we face as a country, much bigger than what they are going through in Ukraine.
I'm telling you.
So you can float in the mouth, make all kinds of noise about Ukraine, but remember your country, because you don't have anywhere else. We must pray for our country.
Honestly.
We must commit to solving this problem.
If you think you are in the south, that you are not concerned, it's coming down south. We are feeling it.
Have we not, Lagos Ibadan Expressway, are we not feeling it?
It's already here with us.
Are we not feeling it? In even on the way to Ijebu, are they not kidnapping people? A lot of those cases don't even get reported. You know? Are we not feeling it in Auchi, Edo North and all that? My own auntie was kidnapped in our state, and it was in Edo State that ransom was paid, and we had her freed. So what are we talking about?
You said it last week. Even my own local government, Osen local government,
yes,
in Ondo State,
you are feeling it.
Imoru, Sobe, all these areas, the bandits, they've overtaken.
Yes, so
the village is there.
So the problem we face, is it not bigger than that of Ukraine? Do you know how many people have died? In Kaduna alone, Governor El-Rufai said, if Zamfara, Katsina, Niger will commit to detailing fatalities the way Kaduna has done, that it will be 3 times higher than Kaduna State. That's what he's saying.
Everybody wants to just...
Yes, you kill over 1,000 people within a short period.
All right, we'll take this break. When we come back, we'll talk more. It's still Journalist Hangout on Sunday. Please don't go away. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. It's Journalist Hangout on Sunday, and I still have Babaji Dekolade Otitoju and Sam Ibemire in the house. Food is an essential for human existence. Hence, its availability or otherwise is critical to the economy. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, says rising food insecurity and poverty may mar Nigeria's economic growth rate. In its World Economic Outlook report, IMF also listed high debt service as one of the challenges facing economic recovery in the country. Meanwhile, the federal government reaffirmed its commitment to bringing down inflation and growing the economy. The Minister of State for Budget and National Planning, Kenneth Agba, said the economy is making a lot of progress due to consistent performance in recent times. Did they?
Well,
consistent performance.
I don't know what he meant by consistent performance in recent times, but I know that since 2014 we've not had single digit inflationary figure.
Yes, double digit all the way.
Been double digits. It's been double digits, and things are a lot worse for our people because of this problem of food insecurity. Food prices are going up astronomically because people can't access the farms. A lot of, I remember, if you remember the story I did on high price of rams in Abuja, on the eve of Salah. They said farms that they used to access to go and bring these rams in Katsina, in Zamfara, that they cannot go. They said it on tape, that they can't go to those places. That's basically why this thing is expensive. So some will now go to Chad to bring in ram, and of course our currency is weak. Of course it will reflect in how much they sell it to you and I at the end of the day. So we've got to do something about insecurity. If we are able to defeat these bandits, and we defeat them decisively, more people can go into their farms.
Our farmers will come back.
There are cases of people, even after they've worked hard, it's time for harvest, these guys will come and burn down their farms because they refuse to pay the levies. So how can we continue like that? And of course, the issue of our weak currency is there. Everything has gone up. Everything that's imported, the price has gone up astronomically. So the purchasing power of our people, you know, is shrinking by the day. And if that is not the harbinger for inflation, honestly, I don't know what else it is. So, and the advice that they gave us on debt service, we need to do something about it. We can't keep taking loans, because there are implications for taking loans. You have to service the loans. And if you are spending nearly every money you earn on servicing debt, I think 92 or what percentage again?
Over 90.
Then there's a problem there. There's a problem there. You can't spend nearly all of what you are earning to service debt.
If you are earning, is it 33 trillion? I don't know the last figure, from 20 trillion to 33 trillion, and we're still talking about borrowing more. Yes,
government will tell you that that they've been borrowing, for production, but you and I know that some of these claims, can be hardly, defended. Lately, the government has been celebrating some of its successes in that area. Yes, the IMF is projecting that our GDP will grow by 2.5 in 2022. Last week, government reported that the economy grew by 3.98, and all that. In fact, in trying to celebrate that, we're told that is comparable to what it was in the Jonathan era, in a way. So the government apparently has made so much progress that we can now be saying, well, they've taken us back to that era where things appear to be a bit more prosperous. But the fact of the matter is that even though agri contributes a little over 25% to our GDP, the real impact on the people, cannot be felt. Jide has talked about food security and all that. Yes, you can make all the claims, you can display all the sacks of rice in Abuja, but how much
rice pyramids?
How much
brought down the price?
How much, do our citizens? I mean, by how much do our citizens have access to?
We used to buy that
price and all that.
7,000.
So it's important that we are real, to ourselves. There's so much insecurity, and not many people are going to the farms. Okay, and if you don't have access to the farm, what agri contributes to the GDP standards risk. So let's not pretend. The government should understand that Nigerians are getting a bit more discerning. So the figures that they bandy out there should be figures that they can comfortably defend. Because we're asking questions and we're lamenting. Yeah, and we're holding our government accountable. Nigerians are going hungry. That's the truth.
Okay, and economics, Muda Yusuf joins us via Zoom for more discussion. Muda, thank you for staying with us.
Thank you very much.
Good to have you again.
Now,
thank you, Jide.
We list this figure, we churn out these figures maybe quarterly or annually, but a lot of people, they don't get to relate the figures in terms of what government gives to us with what is happening in their homes, as in making direct impacts on the people.
Yes, I agree with you. Jide has said a large part of this matter, because at the end of the day, the economy is about human beings. It's not so much about some of this data. So to the extent that the data does not adequately reflect the feelings of the people or the performance of businesses, especially the SMEs, then there may be issue with the data. And that is why in economics, we talk about growth that is inclusive. You can be posting very good growth. If the growth is not inclusive, if the growth is not reducing poverty, if the growth is not creating jobs, then there is a limit to which you can celebrate this kind of growth. So it is important that we understand that kind of nexus. So in assessing the performance of the economy, yes, some of the GDP numbers, at least technically, a lot of celebration that is the highest that we have posted in 7 years. In Q4, that was Q4 2021, we had a GDP growth of 3.98. In arriving at these figures, I think we need to also understand where the figures are coming from. The GDP figures for 2021, which is the last that we had, is a year-on-year data. In other words, we are comparing 2021 with 2020.
Yeah.
And it's a no-brainer. When you compare 2021 to 2020, you are likely to get a very good improvement.
Yeah.
Because in 2020, the economy was practically completely down. So that was the peak of the recession. In fact, in Q2 2020, the economy contracted by 6.11%. And the year ended up on a negative note, because the GDP performance in that year was about minus 1.92. So that is what we call the base effect. When the baseline with which we are comparing is already an extremely bad year, then even a very minimal performance will begin to project you as a star performer. But the reality is that the economic activities in 2021 were much better than in 2020.
Are you there?
So from that perspective, we can say that yes, 2021 was much better than 2020. That is what we. The
IMF wants us to do something about the sliding value of the naira. Is there anything that the CBN ought to have done that it has not done by way of shoring up the value of our currency?
Well, the value of the currency suffers from a number of very critical factors. First is the productivity in the economy. Because for you to strengthen your currency, you must be able to put something on the table on the global market.
Yeah.
And whatever you are putting on the table must be something that is competitive, both in price and in quality. So that is one way for you to show up the currency. I'm talking now about the supply of foreign exchange. If you are not putting anything out there for people to pick and pay you hard currency, there is no way you can get much of foreign exchange. Unfortunately, because of the very difficult environment we are operating in, and you just lamented, and rightly so, about the security situation. All these things have far-reaching economic effects. So if the productivity is not there for you to even produce and sell to the outside world, where will the foreign exchange come from? The second point is the issue of import bill. Now, unfortunately, because at a time like this, we should be smiling that we have a lot more foreign exchange coming into the country, because we are an oil-producing country.
Yes.
Although it's not a good thing, at least, to be celebrating the misfortune of others. But the reality is that the current crisis in Ukraine has pushed up oil price to over $100 per barrel.
Yes.
that should normally be reflecting now in our exchange rate. It should be reflecting in our reserves. It may not be that immediate, but even since last year, average oil price last year was $72 per barrel, compared to what we had in 2020 when it was $40 per barrel. In normal times, this will have reflected in stabilizing the exchange rates and even possibly in strengthening it. It should have also been reflecting in our foreign reserves. Not our foreign reserves depending on Euro bond and the special drawing rights. It should be reflecting the performance, at least to a large extent, of what is happening in the oil market. But that is not the story. The exchange rate kept on depreciating. So the capacity of the economy to minimize import, and the biggest import bill we have today, it's not even so much rice and all these things.
Petrol.
Muda Yusuf breaking it down the way it is very interesting, because this is reality. I think Muda is back.
The oil price, they had the import bill, and they had the subsidy, they had the corruption, they had the smuggling. So this situation is even going to worsen if we are not careful, because only recently the president transmitted supplementary budget of 2.2 or 2.55 trillion additional to support subsidy, which is making it close to 3 trillion. That was when oil price was around 85, 90. Now oil price is already 100. If this invasion or war turns out to be protracted, then we are in trouble. Because the subsidy is going to go up maybe to 4 trillion, and before you know where you are, the subsidy will almost be consuming the entire revenue. NNPC has been crying that they may not be able to remit anything to the FAC account. You have states that are almost 100% dependent on FAC. How are they going to pay salaries? How are they going to pay the pensioners? How are they going to pay contractors? So we have a lot of dysfunctional challenges. Then the foreign exchange policy itself, I'm sorry if I'm sounding like a broken record. The policy itself is a dysfunctional policy. If you have a policy regime where you have a major differential between the official window and the parallel market window, it's a recipe for failure.
Yeah.
It's a recipe for distortion. It's a recipe for a lot of transparency problems, even corruption.
Yeah.
It's a recipe for round tripping. Because the standard
The gap is too wide.
in the literature, in terms of differential, is between 5 to 10% between the almost 50% differential. That is enough business for some people. If you're able to cross $1 million from the official window to the parallel market window, you know how much that is? That's over 100 million naira. Which business can be more profitable than that?
No one. No one.
So these are
What do you want to
distortions that the policy itself has created. And the policy itself is not allowing foreign exchange to come in. How do you expect people to bring foreign currency to your country if you say they have to bring it in at 416? Meanwhile, they are aware that in the other market, it's about 575.
575.
So it's affecting the supply side of foreign exchange. So apart from the unfortunate story of the oil and gas sector, which has brought us to a state where
given the dilemma
all
we
our
have found
refineries have
ourselves in,
collapsed,
given the dilemma we have found ourselves in, would you advise the federal government to reconsider its decision to extend, postpone the implementation of the Petroleum Industry Act till sometime next year?
well, not exactly. Not exactly. But again, some of these issues are not strictly economic. Now, Jide just talked about the very serious aggravating poverty that we have. So if you are dealing with a population that are already so heavily impoverished, how do you now move on to the issue of saying that you want to withdraw subsidy, even though the subsidy itself has a lot of issues? But it has become highly sensitive matter. It has become highly emotive. And no matter what, how do you want to explain to the citizens? And all of this is coming because we have mismanaged our oil and gas sector, the downstream sector. How can we be in oil business for over 60 years and we don't have refineries that are functioning? We don't have private investors in refineries. It's unpardonable. That is the fundamental issue. So if the government is taking the decision to move the implementation, and in any case, it is not the entire PIA that has been rolled back.
I guess an economics Muda Yusuf has just broken it down, and it's so. Okay, let's wrap with Muda. I think Muda is back now. On the final analysis, way out, Muda.
Well, the way out is to look at the policy issues. We have policy issues in the foreign exchange market. We have to address it. We need to ensure a market-driven exchange rate. We need to close the gap between the official window and the parallel market window. And let me say that this is also clearly stated in the National Development Plan. That one of the strategic macroeconomic objectives that is of priority is the unification of the exchange rate. It's in the plan which was launched by the president himself. So why are we still here? There are an e-window which is supposed to be a proper market. It's not a market. It's not liquid. Because we are fixing rates there, therefore, we are not able to attract supply into that market. So we need to deal with the policy.
Thank you so much, Muda Yusuf, and economics. Sam, you have said it all, did you?
Yeah, there's nothing to add. It's
The fundamentals.
It's just a depressing story.
And it could
It's just depressing.
that where we are now, it's not likely to get better if you continue to.
No, if those policies are
yeah.
sustained, we can't get better.
But those are the stark realities that we face. The fundamentals don't look good. I mean, other countries are celebrating.
Prices of bringing this in the international market, I think that's entered $100 now. $100.
Yes.
But
we can't
and
celebrate.
instead of it to be a blessing to us,
It's almost a cost.
reverses the case.
Even the Minister of State for Petroleum was complaining to the rest of Nigerians, and I was wondering what he had expected us to do. You know,
intervene on it.
Well, frankly, I think
it will also complain about the subsidy bill, that it does not believe that we consume over 100 million liters a day. Everybody doesn't seem to agree with that figure.
Still, we are yet to unravel.
Individuals at NNPC. You saw the Senate president say, look, if we are not careful, we will stay here and we will be told that it has moved to 200.
Jide, you know how it is, with data. Not reliable. Much of what we bandy around here as a country,
unrealistic figures.
Unrealistic figures. And that is why I still have my quarrels. I think that it's not right for a government to dodge a responsibility. That's the way I see it. No matter how we pander around it, you want the incoming government to take all the bullets because you realize that if you do it now, there's going to be uprising and all that, because you want to win an election. I think it's
based on what Muda even said.
Yes.
Even if that new government comes, it's an emotive issue that has to be handled carefully, because I don't know how.
So we're going to stay in this vicious circle. We wake up and we complain that we are making more money, but we can't benefit from it, and then we keep. What are we crying to?
All right.
We say buy the bullets.
It is well. It is
yes. It is well.
It is well.
It is well, man. And finally, for ages, agitation for women empowerment took front burner and it's getting more bites. In Nigeria, a bill seeking to create special seats for women in both the Senate and the House of Representatives, as well as the State Houses of Assembly, has killed second reading in the lower legislative chamber. Many women groups are urging the National Assembly to ensure passage of the bill, titled A Bill for an Act to Alter the Provisions of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 to create additional special seats for women in the National and State Houses of Assembly. In this journalist hangout weekend special, TVC News, Nelson Etta gives us an update.
A bill seeking to create special seats for Nigerian women in both the Senate and House of Representatives has killed through second reading in the House of Representatives.
The latest and the joyous thing that has happened today is the passage of the bill on the special seats for women. That's number one. Number two is the 35% for executives of political parties. That has just passed too. So we are so happy and we are so excited, and we are grateful to all the male members of both the House and the Senate for coming along and thinking in a democratic way and thinking globally.
The bill, which is one of the 68 newly proposed amendments to the 1999 Constitution, is sponsored by the Deputy Chief Whip of the House, Honorable Nkiruka Onyejocha, representing Umunachi, Isikwato Federal Constituency of Abia State, and was supported by more than 100 members of the House, with Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila and other principal officers as co-sponsors. Indeed, last week, when the bills were laid before the National Assembly, First Lady Aisha Buhari, as well as Minister of Women Affairs Pauline Talin, were in the chambers to show their support for the three women-centered bills.
First Lady is here in a capacity as the First Lady and as a woman to support and show her support for the women folk, and particularly in the area of constitutional amendment in certain areas that would inure to the benefit of a woman.
To peacefully observe the proceedings of constitutional review about women, and also to listen to the proceedings also concerning the 35 affirmative action about women and special additional seats for women in the National Assembly.
The bill is titled A Bill for an Act to Alter the Provisions of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 to create additional special seats for women in the National Assembly and State Houses of Assembly.
The bill seeks additional seats. One for senators from each state is different from the 109 seats. Two for members House of Reps from each state, different from the 360 seats. I think it's three for House of Assembly members from each state. Is different from whatever composition they have for each of their House of Assembly members. Now this works, it's called a temporary special measure, and it's not forever. Once it passes once the constitution is changed or is altered to include this, it doesn't mean it's in there forever. It's a temporary special measure, and what this seeks to do is to let it run for 4 electoral tenures, which means after 16 years, if we feel that it hasn't worked or it hasn't achieved the goal that we wanted to achieve, or it's not working for the way we want it to work, it can be altered and removed from the Constitution.
Some female lawmakers, both at the state and federal levels, shared their experiences as minority female lawmakers in a terrain dominated by men, calling for their help to pass the bill.
I knew I had to work harder more than the men because I have to leave a legacy.
Men have helped me tremendously. There are so many of them. They stood by me with their assets, with their money, and what have you. So I think the men can help. The men can give us their support.
There's no doubt that out there is a jungle, a huge, thick forest that you just need to navigate through. But the men, because of their agenda, because of their ability to always work together, because of their financial muscle, already are advanced, and they have been in it for longer than most of us, so they know the ropes. That is where they're coming. That is where we need them.
Currently, at the National Assembly, of the 469 seats, women occupy only 29 seats. That is 6% of both the Senate and the House of Representatives. While of the 990 seats in all the state houses of assembly in Nigeria, women occupy only 4.5% of the seats. For the women, this is not good enough.
The idea actually sells itself if you live in the modern world. Ours is just to nudge a little bit and push a little bit and convince wherever there are doubts. When you think about women participation, think about your wives, think about your mothers, more importantly, think about your daughters. Do you want your daughters to hold positions of authority of decision making? If the answer is yes, then the time is now.
Expectations are high that the bill will receive at least 2/3 support from the two chambers of the National Assembly. A minimum of 24 states are expected to vote in favor of the bill before it can be sent to President Muhammadu Buhari for assent.
Julie, I can't in a hurry forget Beijing 1995.
Yes.
1995, where they were talking about 35% affirmation. Very popular summit for women and around the world, and that thing really reverberated around the world. And since that time, we'll be making efforts to make sure our mothers, women, they take center stage. Let's look at the composition of Lagos now. We have 3 senatorial districts in Lagos. We have Mrs. Oluremi Tinubu, distinguished Senator Oluremi Tinubu, Lagos Central, and we have Senator Olamilekan in Lagos West, and Senator Abiru in Lagos East. Now, we are looking for an ideal situation that if we have 27 seats in the House of Representatives, effectively, that we should step up the number of women we have in the House of Representatives. Right now, Lagos State, I don't think we don't have any the last person I can remember in the House of Representatives is Honorable Abike Dabiri. I don't think I'm trying. I don't make mistake, but I don't think we have any representative from Lagos State in that House of Representatives.
Lagos is not even, when we talk of northern Nigeria, it's a lot worse. We've had Lagos was represented by women a lot of times. What in northern Nigeria, it's like the men even see it as a winner takes all affair, like a Scotch-head zero-sum game. So I think that I like this this bill, and when I was researching for today's show, I looked at what we have in Africa. Rwanda has 61.25% presence of women in its parliament. 61
compared to our own 6.
Now
61.
Yes, 61.25. South Africa has 46.1%.
Wow.
So it's even a contest between men and women in the parliament in South Africa. Senegal has 43.2%.
Fair enough.
Yes. Mozambique, one of those frontline states that Nigeria spent resources on, in the 70s and 42.4%. And then Burundi 38.2%.
Can't even
so we have a long way to go. Rwanda has the strongest women participation in politics, not just in Africa. It also ranks first globally in terms of the highest proportion of women in the lower legislature. So that's a country, even what has been proposed in this bill will still not move us close to any of these African countries. Not to talk of making us be able to play on the global stage. So
61.25.
Adding one Senate seat to women in each of the states and the FCT is just like the beginning. In my view, it's just like the beginning. It's like a means to an end.
We have 197 seats, so
it still doesn't.
That's the statistics.
It still doesn't move us to even the goal of the Beijing conference, which is gender equality and all that, because we've got to do a lot better. That is the point that I'm trying to make. Many people will say, "Oh, at the end of the day, this is you are still increasing the number of people in the National Assembly." But as you add from the lawmaker, Onoga, it's not even meant to be a permanent thing. It's just meant to. It's supposed to be experimental.
Yes, so that when
if it doesn't work,
is there and everything.
But I think that, given the efforts that the president's wife is making, if they continue to push hard, then we should be able to see more women. I think it was in Adamawa State that we had 2 women or so, from the Senate or so.
Yes, the time of
at a point, we had 2 women from Adamawa State in the Senate. So I think that we have to sustain the campaign so that we will get even close to these African countries, because these African countries have achieved this feat not through any legislation.
Just awareness.
They just felt, oh look, we give women a role to play and they excel. And Nigeria under Obasanjo, we saw what women could do.
And the vote more.
Okonjo Iwealas of this. Yes, women are best. When it comes to mobilizing people for elections, women are the best in our country. They are easy to mobilize. But when it comes to these primaries where we chase people away with guns and all that, the men will simply hijack the whole affair, and the women get a very short end of the stick. I think that has to stop.
Giving our women their deserved places.
Yes, it's desirable, but I have very serious concerns about the route through which they want to the women want to follow to achieve their goal. Already there are concerns about costs of governance, and that bothers me a lot, because we are talking about creating additionals, not staying within the numbers. So yes, it's desirable. I want it encouraged, but I think that we should avert our minds to the implications of that. And I would, on the basis of that, recommend something slightly different. Probably a quota system would work, where the women will get a certain percentage of the number of positions available at the party level, same as a number as a quota within the legislature, and even the reserved seats. So I think that way we can stay within the numbers, manage the cost of governance, and still have women play a very prominent or major role within the management of the political parties and their participation in the parliamentary side of government. So yes, it's desirable. I wish that this initiative or this bill is pushed to its ultimate goal, hoping that they will get the numbers in terms of passing it. You need 2/3, you need 24 states out of 36 to be able to get this through.
So consider amendment roots.
Yeah, so
Quite,
for me, it's important that the route towards it, should be given a consideration. Cost of governance for me is a major concern. I don't think it's something we can play with at this moment in time.
So it will take us to alter our constitution, because you said something now that none of this country had to alter their legislation, but their awareness,
just the
determination and everything.
Yeah.
So I want to look at the roots, which is better. Should we put it in our constitution, or we should just naturally allow women, so that we won't have to talk about increasing the slots?
How do we do that? I think the framers of this bill have tremendous understanding of the psyche of the average Nigerian. These people in the National Assembly, if we are to leave them and to tell them that, look, it will mean that 1 out of those 3 seats mandatorily must be considered to women.
Yeah.
It may be difficult for them to get support.
Okay.
But you can see 100 of them in the House of Reps alone. 100 of them supported it.
Yes.
All the principal officers.
Yes.
They don't want their position to be tampered with.
Yeah. let's quickly joining us. That's Cynthia Mbamalu, a lawyer and one of the foremost advocates that have worked on the bill. Thank you for joining us, Cynthia. Hello. Thank you for staying with us, Cynthia. Can you hear me, Cynthia?
Yes, I can hear you now.
All right. Tell me about this bill. Thank you for joining us. You have a very short time. Just tell me how you got to arrive where we are now.
Yeah, so the bill actually is an amendment to the Constitution, and the idea is to create additional seats for women in the Senate and the House of Representatives and in the State Houses of Assembly. The bill, thankfully, has been adopted by both the Senate and the House, so it was one of the bills presented at plenary with the other constitutional amendment bills. And the idea for this bill is basically to increase the number of women in government. So if you think about it, currently, out of the 360 members of the House of Representatives, only 13 are women. Out of the 109 in the Senate, only 8 are women. And if you go to the state assemblies, out of the 991 seats, just 44 are women. So what this bill seeks to do is to ensure that regardless of what political parties do or what the primaries outcomes are, that there will be women who would contest and win elections thanks to with this bill in place. And it's important to note that without this bill, there's a likelihood that some states will never have women in their assemblies. Currently, in the Northwest, there's only 1 state with 1 woman in the state assembly, that is Kaduna. All the other 6 states in the Northwest have no female and have not had female in their state assemblies. If you think about Northwest representation in the National Assembly, they also do not have women represented in the National Assembly. Not just there, if you think of the other regions and the other zones, very few women actually succeed at the level of from party primaries and then at the level of candidacy. And we believe that this is an important time for Nigeria, for citizens and for the National Assembly to work together to ensure that this bill is passed, because we would not be able to achieve women inclusion if we do not take positive steps to amend our constitution and provide a legal mandate that ensures that political parties field women and that women actually win elections in Nigeria. And it's not just it's not a women issue, because it's about a national issue. Nigeria ranks poorly globally. If you think about our ranking globally, we rank about 184 of the 187 states that were ranked with regards to women in parliament.
That's shameful.
If you think about our ranking even within the sub-Saharan Africa, Nigeria is performing poorly. Many states and many countries within this region are already performing better when it comes to women inclusion. And research is already showing that a country that has women involved in decision-making processes has better chances to increase its revenue and to address developmental challenges. Because with more women in government, you'd have assessment of policies from both male and female perspective. And we believe that this particular bill, this is one of the bills that provides on women, but this one in particular is historic because for the first time, Nigeria will be taking intentional steps to open up the space for women representation, and it begins with the reserved seats bill.
Thank you, Cynthia Mbamalu. Our time is fast spent. Thank you for at least brief presentation, and we can get the figures that we are not anywhere in Africa.
No, she's been making sense since the last time Jesus Christ was on planet Earth. So we really need to do something. I remember when President Buhari visited one of these states, the Secretary of State Government of Kogi State told the president that she was the only female secretary to state government in northern Nigeria. So you can imagine,
that's worrisome.
19 states, 19 states in the north, only one had a female secretary.
Okay, they said in Kaduna House of Assembly they have.
That's the only
the deputy
in the whole of the northwest.
That shows even Deputy Governor of Kaduna State.
No, but you know the governor even came out, even amongst his commissioners, brought in women. You know, I think Kwara too did well along that line in terms of their appointees, so not elected.
Elected one.
Oh. Yeah. My position that is, hasn't changed. It's desirable. I wish them.
But we should not put additional costs. Okay.
And that was
they attempted the 35% in the 8th assembly. And
Cynthia, I wish you the best of luck.
They have their
Thank
strategy
you
this time.
for working with the First Lady on this bill. Thank you. I wish you the best of luck, and let's see how it goes. Because the process of amending the constitution, 24 states House of Assembly, you need to talk. And
the advocacy has to continue.
Yes,
it's not the time to rest.
Thank you, Cynthia. Lovely one.
Join in prayers.
Thank you. Sammy, baby.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And the best for himself.
Thank you so much.
It's been
thank you for a breezy program. I look like 30 minutes.
Honestly.